AMD's Radeon RX 9060 XT is still a big deal right now. It's the latest GPU to hit the market that kind of really nails that sweet spot for price to performance, making it a fantastic choice for anyone looking to upgrade without breaking the bank. Of course, once you decide on the 9060 XT, you've got a whole bunch of AIB or add-in board models to choose from, each with its own flair. And when it comes to these custom cards, the Sapphire Nitro Plus series is generally towards the top of everyone's list. They've earned a legendary reputation for their premium build quality and serious engineering, even if they do usually come in with a slightly higher price tag. We recently had our hands on the RX 9070 XT Nitro Plus model, and, well, it left us impressed. So naturally, we're buzzing to see how things translate to its little brother, the RX 9060 XT. Because while it looks similar to other Nitro Plus models in the higher tiers, it's a slightly miniature version of what we've already seen before, but may come with some slight differences in the hope of being regarded as one of the best 9060 XT cards on the market. But before we get into that, here's a quick word from this video sponsor.
Alright, stay calm. You've got one job. Do not let this thing overheat.
It's running hot. I don't know if it's safe.
Get the WireView Pro.
The WireView Pro safeguards your graphics card with real-time power and temperature monitoring, acoustic alarms for custom thresholds, and sensor pin detection to ensure proper 12V PWR connection. External sensors can monitor additional components like memory or voltage regulators, while an OLED display provides instant insights, meaning that this is the last time you'll blow a 12V PWR connector, soldier. To keep your system protected, click the link in the description below.
So right out of the box, the Sapphire RX 9060 XT Nitro Plus immediately gives you that unmistakable premium feeling, even if it's aimed at the more budget-conscious end of the market. It carries the signature Nitro Plus look, which perfectly balances a sleek industrial look with a clear sense of high-quality construction. Sapphire has stuck with a sophisticated gunmetal grey colour scheme, cleverly using a mix of materials to create a distinct style. And, well, there's nothing else really on the market that comes close to its design, where black or white cards are typically the norm. Now, I've said it time and time again, but I feel that if Apple were to make a GPU, this is the direction they take. And whether you're an Apple fanboy or not, that's a good thing. The front shroud features a distinct perforated design, though this is more about styling than adding any extra layers of cooling or heat dissipation. But it works and gives that industrious mechanical look, which I get it won't be for everyone, but for me it definitely works on kind of giving a unique design to it, and it helps it to stand out. And as I said, this is more about visual flair than raw function, but it absolutely looks fantastic and kind of instantly sets it apart. Now, for an RX 9060 XT, this card leans towards the larger side, though that's not a negative. Sapphire is renowned for its cooling solutions and feature-rich designs, and that leads to a more substantial card. And, well, because of its size, which measures in at 300mm long, 131mm tall, and 55mm thick, making it a 2.7 slot card, it feels incredibly solid and well built when it's in your hands, which for a GPU at this end of the market, you don't always expect something to feel as big and as durable. So I think consumers who are maybe new to the market may actually be surprised, but in a big and, well, good way. Now, due to its size, even though it is on the larger scale, it should still be suitable for most cases on the market, unless you're going full small form factor, where I guess you should always double check that it will fit in the first place. Now, due to the weight of the card, which comes in at 1,130 grams, a supplied bracket does come in the box, and it's actually better than most, as it's one of those types of brackets that gets screwed into the expansion slots on your case. And I kind of feel that, well, this is a bit more rigid compared to those flimsy stands that just sit on top of your PSU shroud. Though the bracket isn't necessarily needed, as, well, it's not the heaviest card on the market, but having that extra peace of mind is always a nice thing to have. Now, the fans make up part of Sapphire's Tri-X cooling branding and feature aero curve fan blades, specifically shaped to optimize airflow and provide static pressure. To further help with airflow, the middle fan does rotate in the opposite direction to the two outer fans, and this counter-rotational design is said to help to reduce air turbulence and improve overall heat dissipation. Now, beyond their design, these fans also have an outer ring around them, providing a more integrated and refined look compared to, I guess, traditional bare fan blades. And in terms of styling, the center hub has a brushed metal design with the middle fan incorporating the Nitro Plus logo, giving it a clean and understated look that could work well in a gaming rig or even a professional-based system. Now, the top of the card is one of the most unique design choices we've seen on the GPU, and something we've seen on higher tier Nitro Plus models, with that distinct crisscross lattice-style grille. Now, this isn't just for show, as while it does give a glimpse of the heatsink beneath, it will play a major role in helping hot air escape. Though to add to the style, there is a full RGB light bar that can be customized through software to fit in with the rest of your system's design. Branding is kept to a minimum here, with a Nitro Plus logo at one end and a Radeon logo at the other to keep up with the clean look that Sapphire have gone for. There's also a cutout section along the top, which is where we find the recessed single 8-pin power connector. And due to its recessed nature, it does mean that the power cable isn't pushing up against the side of your PC case, which is more common than you may think, especially if you have a slimmer chassis where the cable can push up against the glass. And this also helps the design to kind of just have that cleaner look and to prevent any undue strain on the cable or connector. Moving around to the rear, we have a full metal backplate with subtle Nitro Plus branding and the same grey-like gunmetal theme as the rest of the card. Barring the small cutout for the power connector, it essentially covers the full PCB and extends beyond that, where we get a good look at the large heatsink through the cutout in the backplate, which again should aid in pushing the hot air out of the rear of the cooler. There's also an ARGB out connector, which Sapphire do include a cable in the box for easy synchronization with the rest of your system if you want to use that. On the end of the card, the front and then the back plate actually merge together to kind of completely close off the design, and this overall just gives a clean look without simply seeing the end of the heatsink and the heat pipes. This may assist in forcing the hot air to expel out the rear instead of just being pushed back towards the front of the case, but is more likely just kind of a design choice just to keep things clean looking and harmonious with the rest of the card. The rear I/O keeps things nice and clean and takes up 2 physical slots inside your case, though the cooler does protrude further than that, but well, that's pretty typical in this day and age. There's also a small amount of ventilation here to further assist in pushing heat out of your case, though in the real world, it likely doesn't actually do too much, but I guess is better than simply just being blanked off. We also have 2 HDMI connectors and a single DisplayPort 2.1a connector, so triple monitor setups are supported and resolutions up to 7680 by 4320. Now, before we tear this card down, there is a little PSA in there that it's worth noting that we did all of our testing prior to actually taking the cooler off, so essentially that it doesn't skew our results in any shape or form. So taking the card apart, it's relatively easy, and the fan shroud portion can be removed from the heatsink without disturbing the rest of the card. Though one feature I'm really keen on this is the fan quick connect. On any GPU, this is a major moving part and is one of the parts that is likely to fail before anything else, if at all. And Sapphire have actually made it easy to remove the fans from the shroud with a single screw. And for warranty purposes or repair, it means that they can send you a new fan out and you can repair it yourself without being without your card. The large heatsink is split into 2 sections, featuring a simple 4 heat pipe design that connects directly into the cold plate. This cold plate also makes direct contact with the memory ICs, and there's also a separate area designed to transfer heat away from the VRM circuitry. That all-important backplate isn't just for looks either, as it also includes thermal pads to assist with helping to cool the memory ICs that are on the back of the PCB. Now, speaking of the PCB, it is quite small in comparison to the cooler and measures in at 172mm, which is just over half of the length of the complete card. And well, this is pretty standard with GPUs lately, where the cooler is much larger than the PCB itself. There's a 7-phase design for the Navi 44-based GPU and a 1+1 phase VRM for the memory. Both the GPU phases and also the memory phases are controlled by 2 monolithic power systems MP286AA controllers, and all phases are the MPS MP87993 Dr. Moss chips that have a rating of 50 amps each. The board includes 4 2GB GDDR6 SK Hynix ICs on the front of the PCB, and then a further 4 on the rear of the PCB, hence the need for thermal pads on that side as well. Obviously, if there was an 8GB model of the Nitro Plus, you'd only find the 4 that would be on the front of the PCB. Then lastly, for the GPU core itself, Sapphire have opted for Honeywell PTM 7950 TIM for long-term stability and excellent thermal conductivity. Now, being a Nitro Plus card, naturally, as you'd expect, it comes in pre-factory overclocked, and Sapphire have pushed the game clock to 2,780 MHz, so a healthy 10% increase over the reference 2,530 MHz. And then the boost clock has been pushed to 3,320 MHz, which is a 6% bump from the reference 3,130 MHz. Obviously, we wanted to see how much extra headroom there was on the table, and being an AMD-based card, overclocking works through a combination of pushing the GPU frequency higher, along with the same for the memory, and then gradually lowering the voltage to see performance gains. It's here where we were able to increase the core clock by 100 MHz, and the memory by 100 MHz as well. Though it is worth noting that with RDNA 4, pushing the memory doesn't tend to lend itself to any extra performance. The important one, though, however, is the undervolt, where we were able to set a voltage offset of minus 100 millivolts. In terms of cooling performance, during an F1 24-hour-long run at 4K on the max settings inside an enclosed case, we found our GPU temperature peaking at around 53 degrees, while the memory came in slightly higher at 82 degrees, though well within reasonable levels, all while the fans averaged 1500 RPM, though we did see peaks closer to 1,740 RPM in places, making it still relatively quiet overall, all while utilising every last drop of power, peaking at a little over 180 watts. Due to that higher level of power, we did see a clock speed of around 2,960 MHz, though on occasion this did rise to a little over 3,000. The overclock saw temperatures drop slightly, with the GPU temperature now sitting 2 to 3 degrees lower at 50 degrees, while the memory temperature also saw a decrease now to 80. And this is all mainly down to the fans working harder, peaking at around 1,615 RPM compared to 1,500 RPM average at stock. So there's a slight sacrifice in noise levels, but nothing of concern as it's still extremely quiet at that speed, though it did peak a little higher throughout too. Power-wise, we did see a higher level due to the power limit being increased by 10%, even though the GPU has been undervolted by 100 millivolts. And this leads to a power draw around 200 watts, and our overclock now sees the clock speed increase to just under 3,250 MHz. But let's see what that means in terms of real-world performance in games. When it comes to gaming performance, we tested at 1440p, as even though this tier of card is aimed at the 1080p market arguably, 1440p is definitely within reach in some titles with playable and smooth frame rates. In a Plague Tale, the Nitro Plus is off to a good start, offering up 6% faster performance at stock than the XFX Swift model that we tested as well. And while its overclock did help to narrow that gap, pushing the Sapphire card sees 3% higher frame rates when pushed itself. This then pushes the Nitro Plus card to present 9% more performance compared to the stock performance of the XFX Swift, showing slightly better headroom with a small amount of tweaking. Moving over to Black Myth Wukong, and the Nitro Plus comes in with a margin of error performance jump of 3% over the XFX Swift at stock, and again sees stronger gains when overclocked with a boost of 6% over its own stock performance, and this widens the gap between the XFX card by an even larger margin. Lastly, in Cyberpunk at stock, again we're talking margin of error increases when comparing the Nitro Plus to the XFX Swift of just under 2%. And while the XFX showed no difference when overclocked, the Nitro Plus card from Sapphire saw much healthier gains of a little under 8%, which is a testament to its cooling potential, allowing those higher boost clocks for a sustained period of time. Going back to cooling and seeing how things stack up in terms of peak temperatures, and well, the Sapphire comes in strong with a degree lower GPU temperature compared to the XFX Swift OC. Though what's more interesting is how the overclock improves on that further by dropping down another 2 degrees due to the slightly higher fan speed. The GPU memory temperature is where it does fall short in comparison, as the card at both stock and overclock runs 12 degrees hotter compared to the XFX card, though this still sits comfortably within safe and reasonable levels. So let me start by saying that the 9060 XT is one of the most popular GPUs to come out of the latest generation of cards on the market, and there's plenty of options available from MSRP right up to the higher end in terms of cooling and design, and this Nitro Plus card is definitely up there as one of the best. While we've not tested huge amounts of 9060 XT models, it's clear to see that the Nitro Plus takes the essence of the RDNA 4 based GPU and pushes it onto a whole different level. But if you've ever had a Nitro Plus model of any GPU in the past, this won't necessarily be news to you. We all know what the Nitro Plus is about and what it's able to offer to the table, and, well, in this case, it executes it almost flawlessly. Not only do we get a unique design and style that stands out from the crowd without going over the top, we also get a card that is solidly built and ekes out the very best performance possible, whether that be at stock clocks or with a mild overclock and undervolt combination. Consistently, the Sapphire card was ahead of the XFX, albeit by a small margin of 1 FPS in most cases. But by pushing the limits and drawing the power in, it was able to create a very healthy gap over its stock performance and the competition, where they seemingly didn't offer up much. And so much of that has to be attributed to the cooler. Sapphire has always done a great job of balancing temperatures with fan speed, and well, I kind of feel like they've done it again here. Running at a low 50 degrees and fan speeds that barely broke a sweat is what separates this card from the rest of the models on the market. Though I did mention that it did things almost flawlessly. And I have to mention the memory temperature. Low 80-degree temperatures aren't high at all in the grand scheme of things, but compared to the competition, I feel that it could be better to really make this the perfect RX 9060 XT. Though even with that to one side, without being technically classed as perfect, I still think at this point that this is the best 9060 XT on the market. And I get it, because that is a very bold statement. I get that the design won't be for everyone, as it may not tie in with your particular style choices in your system, but if that can be overlooked, then I honestly feel that we have a real winner on our hands. Though, to definitively say that, I guess I'd have to look at other top-tier models on the market, like the Asus TUF and the Gigabyte Gaming OC, to really confirm that. But based on what I'm seeing here today, I think it's a tough one to beat. Though, of course, a lot of that does depend on the price that you can get it for, and I guess how that compares to the pricing level of an entry-level MSRP card, and whether you personally think that that extra price is worth it. The crux of it is really, really simple. The Sapphire RX 9060 XT Nitro Plus is one of the best cards that we've tested. And if the price is right, I'm finding it kind of really hard to find reasons not to snap one up. Though ultimately, that decision comes down to what's right for you. But hopefully you kind of have come away from this with all of the information you need to make that decision when the time comes. Either way, memory temperatures to one side, which still reasonable levels. Yeah, I think this could be the very best 9060 XT on the market. I mean, look at it. Beautiful. So there you have it. That's going to wrap this one up. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, a like and a sub to the channel would be amazing. And if you love what we do, we've got a Patreon where you can support what we do whilst also getting access to some really cool extras, including behind the scenes content, a super special area on our Discord, and much, much more. The link is, as always, down below. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. See you later, guys.